Hey, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Accidental Isolation, where I like to bring on guests from all walks of life to talk about a moment of their life where they may have been isolated, whether that be mentally, physically, or emotionally. Today, we got Travis Barnes, and I'm super excited for him to be on the show. How you doing?
I am doing great. How are you?
Oh, yeah, I'm super excited. I've seen you through the Mimosa Way,
Yes.
and then I began to follow you, and I began to see a lot of the work you were doing, and it was just inspiring to me, and I was like, hey, I want to hear his story, and I know other people would love to hear his story. So that's how I reached out to you, and I'm super excited that you're here today with me.
Yes, thank you. I'm super excited.
Okay, so if you want to give us a backstory, where you're from, who you are, what you do, anything like that, feel free to just let us know.
I'm Travis Barnes-Roberson, newly married, but I am originally from the small county of Lancaster, South Carolina. Graduate from the illustrious Claflin University in Orangeburg, South Carolina, HBCU grad, HBCUs, Team HBCU always. I've been doing essentially event planning, but I say experience curator because I do not plan weddings. I don't do the birthdays or retirement parties.
Okay.
But I like to create experiences for people, specifically for nonprofits and local businesses, to just raise awareness about local businesses as a whole, but also to support local nonprofits when I can. Been doing that for well over, feel like 5 to 6 years now. I started doing events really in high school. I'm a part-time professor at Central Piedmont Community College, teaching communications, a veteran for the United States Air Force, a PhD candidate, and a bunch of things. But I'm excited to be here and to tell my story.
Oh, yeah. I appreciate it, man. And yes, you do a lot. So I definitely want to have a conversation about that and like how you're able to juggle all these things. Because doing a lot can be a lot for some people, and you carry it well and you do it well.
Thank
Everything
you.
you've done has been excellent, so I'm proud of you. And this, so we spoke a little bit before the show, and you know what the definition of accidental isolation is.
Yes.
So let's dive into a moment or multiple moments, however you need or feel you want to discuss a moment in your life where you felt isolated.
Actually, one of the biggest moments was basic training.
Okay.
Going to the Air Force, my mother was Navy, father was Army. I was proud to go into the Air Force. I was super excited, but actually kind of getting on the plane, doing the processing, all that, it was kind of that accidental isolation because mom and dad are no longer there. I'm the only child as well.
Okay, yeah.
So it's like, I had to share a room with like 30 other guys. But it was that isolation where I became closer, one, to my faith, but two, personally to myself.
Yeah.
Because I was the smallest in my group. I now currently weigh 137. Back then I weighed like 120, if not smaller. So it was definitely a time in my life where I was isolated, mentally, physically, and spiritually. Because I was not super confused, kind of like, oh, okay, I'm really here.
Because you physically were able to leave the family, like you're into a whole nother area.
Yes, and then they take your phone, so now your phone is gone. So 8.5 weeks, well, 7.5 weeks with 8 weeks, I don't have my phone. So I'm kind of like, oh, dang, okay, this is kind of different. But when I got there, when I touched down in San Antonio, Texas, only one gateway into the Air Force. I will always brag about that. But once we got there, it was kind of like oh, this is serious. You know, you see the drill instructors, the big hats, they scream and holler, and you're like, okay, this is a me moment. But I took that accidental isolation, or purposeful, but I say accidental because I really know what I was getting myself into, as kind of a moment to reflect on myself personally for that exact time frame. And I was able to find myself a lot more than what I did not expect to.
All right, so what prompted the idea? And let's preset also, the title of the podcast is Accidental Isolation, but oftentimes isolation can be intentional.
Yes.
Isolation is a tool, right? So it's something that can help and will help you grow as a person you are. So accidental isolation, although accidental usually has a negative connotation, isn't always a bad thing. So being in isolation isn't always bad. And you were in this isolation, and you said you physically were isolated just because you're removed from what you knew. The family was gone, the contact to the family was gone. It's like you were dropped in the middle of a jungle, right? So as you got on the airplane and you got to San Antonio, what began to prompt this what began to prompt this idea of finding myself or feeling like you needed to really be with yourself in this moment?
I think technically I did fly with one other person. Her name was Destiny, one of my great homegirls. We flew together, and we was like, okay, we're going to go to San Antonio together. And we're thinking like, well, maybe they'll not put us together because obviously I'm male and she's female. But when we landed, and then they like separated us like immediately. We landed at their airport, and you had to go to like a special area, and then they put you on the actual bus itself. And so the dude, who was an instructor, was kind of like, hey, a lot of y'all not going to make it through this process. Like, you're gonna
You gotta be
cry. You're
honest
gonna,
with
and I'm like, okay. Well, what do you mean by that?
Yeah.
It gave one of those moments, but I kind of sat in that moment 'cause I had to sit not in the back of the bus like that, y'all. But I sat in the back of the bus. You know, when I was back, I kind of was like, okay, this is
It's
serious.
real.
In that moment, I internalized, okay, I am completely isolated from what I am used to day to day. Of course, you're used to waking up, your alarm clock, your phone, going out with your friends, talking to your friends. Now, like, hand me the phones, da da da. You're like, oh,
Yeah, what now?
What now? And you have to really abide by their rules. But I'll say that process as a whole really uplifted me to have me understand what can I deal with day to day. Like, without my phone for a couple of hours, I'm fine. Not being able to contact my friends for a couple of hours, I'm fine. Being able to plan stuff and work through situations where an instructor may not be there, an adult may not be there, a friend may not be there. I have to work with people I do not know that well.
Yeah.
It was able to build me to the person I am today. I can thank the Air Force for that. But like I said, that entire process, being in San Antonio, I was there during the summer, so
Hot.
hot.
Yeah, real hot.
Day in and day out was hot. Woke up, it was 80, 90. By the time we hit peak, it was like 100 something felt like. But it was able for me to understand myself and having that moment of sitting on that bus like, okay, Travis, this is you. But the instructor said one statement. He said, you're going to feel the proudest when you see "Welcome to Lackland Air Force Base" behind you. And at first I was kind of like, what does he mean by that? Like, no, I'm kind of like, I'm a Pisces as well, so I'm kind of like, what do you mean by that? But when I got on the bus to leave after that, and I saw in the mirror "Welcome to Lackland Air Force Base" behind me, it was like, I did it.
After basic was done.
After basic was done, like, I did it.
Yeah.
I'm proud of myself. I've learned so much. I've grown so much. I got college credit for it that I used as well. So that was really that moment.
Awesome. So let's dive into, and that story is great, and it gives us a great preface to what we're about to dive into. And the biggest point of this podcast is vulnerability. Growing up, after college, in my senior year of college, I started reading a lot of philosophy. I started reading a lot of self-help books. Started reading a lot of things. And the reason why I have people on the show to tell their stories, because I believe the origin of life and the origin of everything we know comes from a story, whether true, false, or whatever. It's come from a story. And if you tell a simple story like, hey, this is what I did, this is how I did it, right? People can learn something. But what people really learn from is the vulnerability in the ideas and the actual factual, actionable things that happen throughout these isolations. So let's dive into these moments. You get off the bus and you don't see it behind you just yet. You see it in front of you. You're here, and the instructor is telling you like, hey, you might not make it, right? And one, how did that feel to hear that? And then, as you said, like, it gave you a foundation, but how were you able to begin to build this foundation throughout basic? I'm familiar with the Air Force, but maybe everyone's not familiar with armed forces and what you have to go through. What was there throughout this period of isolation that actually created this growth and all this stuff that you learned throughout it?
Yes, I'll say specifically the Air Force basic training as a whole, if people are familiar, all branches have a different form of basic training in a way. Air Force, I will always say, is a lot more mental.
Okay.
They really play on your mental, and they play on your confidence as a whole. So it was, when you got off, of course they're screaming and hollering, but if you have some form of discipline, you don't really take it as like a threat.
Yeah,
it's okay,
personal.
it's like, it wasn't a lot of pressure. My parents, once they were already military, they were like, they're going to yell. Listen to the words that they're saying, not the actual volume.
Okay.
It went over my head before I had went until I got there, and I'm like, okay, they're just telling you to go to the left side. Now they're screaming, go to the and you're like, oh, here we go. Yeah. But a lot of us, some of us who already knew, was kind of like, okay, here we go. But all they're saying is move to the left. Okay, so I can say those moments going in, getting off on that day one, sitting in that room, and of course they like ask you questions, or who are you, where you're from, but it's not in a friendly manner.
Yeah.
I'm a super friendly person, so you just be screaming and hollering. I'm like, well,
why are you screaming
what is
and
your
hollering?
name? Travis Barnes. Where are you from? South Carolina, but I live in Charlotte, North Carolina. Your paperwork doesn't say South Carolina. Okay, well, I'm from North Carolina. So it's those moments of like, okay, well, they want you to be confident in that moment. Okay, your answer is your answer.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I said what I said. Now what? But you're able to build yourself throughout that time frame, day in and day out. Because I then went on a eating waiver because I was too light to be in the Air Force. So I had double the food.
Yeah.
So even that moment, they're like, you're too skinny. Okay, heard it all my life, but okay, what's next? Now go and try to have the nice person that want to talk to you kind of softly, like, hey, come on now, let's get straight to the point.
Yeah.
But I was able to build that confidence that I'm listening to your words and not your tone.
What you say, yeah.
But also I had that confidence that I'm not scared of you. And I think that's what came into like my career field, my education field. I'm not scared of anything when it comes to that. If I want to do something, I'm going to do it. If I want to book the Panther Stadium for, I don't know, a pop-up shop, majority of my friends know Travis is going to make a way. It sounds crazy, but he's going to make a way. And I will always say that's what that process, that 8 weeks gave me that confidence.
So is that something you had going into the Air Force? Like, did you always have this confidence? Did you always have this, what I say I want to do, I'm going to get it done?
Yes.
Did you so what throughout this Air Force, did it just increase that, or did it like break it down, or did it like, how was it able to transform the Travis Barnes before and then the Travis Barnes after?
I was able to further understand it.
What they really
being
mean.
bullied as a kid, elementary, middle, and high school, like I said, I was the smallest kid, really among everything. Right? I dealt with the low self-confidence of being in middle school. I'm the smallest kid. I wore extra big clothes, trying to make myself look bigger, wore a hoodie that I still had as an extra large. I ran track.
Yeah.
So I wore our track hoodie. Like, it was like, oh, well, what size? You need a small. I'm like, no, give me an extra large. I wore it all year round. So no matter it was cold, hot, I had my hoodie on. But understand that you don't scare me, and I have the confidence in myself to stand 10 toes behind myself. I would say that's a tip for I'll give anybody. Stand 10 toes behind yourself before you stand 10 toes behind somebody else. Because if somebody pulls your car, you're able to sit there and be like, well, this is me. This is how I am. And I had to really learn that because, of course, me being the smallest, people were like, oh, he's a little dude, but I was able to come out on top, and people kind of called me, was like, I didn't expect this confidence out of you. When you first, I'm also quiet in the initial meeting of people or certain situations. I like to sit back, let me see what's going on in the room, let me know the personalities that I'm dealing with, and then I go for like, okay, I know I can interact with you in a good manner. I know how to kind of talk to you, because some people I'll talk to you in a corporate manner. Yeah. Some people I'll talk in a friendly manner. I might cuss with you, not cuss with you, take a shot with you, not take a shot with you. I'm able to pick up on that fairly quickly and understand where I should go. And I always say that process gave me that really understanding of how to interact with people. Because like I said, being the only child was only me.
Yeah, you're by yourself a lot. You don't have that readily available to just have these conversations with any and everybody. Besides your parents, and of course they're in the military too, so they're probably maybe talking a certain way anyway, just like the military, or just letting you know. So you go through the Air Force, and now like you have this confidence of, I am Travis Barnes and I'm here on this earth. How was this isolation, or towards the end of like you starting to see that this you see the sign behind you and you're coming back into the real world? How was this isolation able to benefit you into the world that you are now? Like you said, this helped you a lot throughout your creative experience and your curating process. Where after that, was everything perfect, everything good, or how was it able to come back into the real world?
I had to recover from it, not in a PTSD type of manner, like I was damaged by it, like talked to my therapist about it. No, it was just you have to take yourself out of that moment. That I then developed the skill of the level of understanding for other people that empathy. Some people that I come in contact with do not know as much as me. They don't have the same experiences as me. We are no lesser than one another, but I'm able to kind of like, okay, what do I need to know about you to kind of like, how can we carry this relationship? Now, I guess I learned that talent because I was also on the laundry crew of basic training. I washed everybody's clothes. It was me and 3 other dudes. Crazy thing is that out of us 4, only 2 knew how to wash clothes. Okay, so like, well, Barnes, how do you put the detergent in when it's already running? Put the detergent in. It's kind of one of those moments. Then I realized, like, then we hear the storylines, like, my parents washed my clothes all my life. Yeah. This is my first experience ever away from them. And when you hear, I had people essentially from all 50 states, North Dakota, South Dakota, California, Utah, Texas, Virginia. So when you meet all these people, you're like, oh, these are so many different backgrounds that I have to adjust to. And how does one do that? Yeah. Because you're like, well, damn, you know how to wash your own clothes? What type? They ask, well, what soap do you use to smell so good? I'm like, soap? Soap? Yeah. Shampoo? What do I shampoo my hair with? We don't have the same texture hair. Yeah, it's those moments where it's like, okay, let me take myself out of the situation because you, in fact, do not know. Yeah. And you're genuine. when a person pulled me to a side, he was older than me.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm like 22, 23, 24. Like, can you teach me how to wash clothes?
Yeah. And you don't know what you don't know. So
I knew how to wash clothes at the age of what? 6, 7,
Yeah.
8. My mom would be like, you don't put, let me show you this one time. My grandma was like, I'll show you the second time. This is how you do it. But I was able to take that and put it into my career of understanding what people want and need and getting to know them.
Yeah.
What's your background? I always say that when you meet new people, you're not just talking to them, you're talking to their background, their trauma, their healing process, their anything. You're talking to this person. So certain things, like some people, you might meet some people that prefer hugs over handshakes, or some people that be like, I don't hug. You're like, oh, okay. You know, it's okay to be like, oh, I understand that, you know, because you just don't know.
not
so
have to have an answer, but
you
just
know,
be
it's okay, because I might get to know you enough to say, okay, Chauncey does not prefer hugs. He does, y'all. But, you know, he doesn't prefer that, and that's okay. He prefers the handshake. Now, we might get to know each other. Then you might, oh, what's up, bro? Da, da, da. But I was able to bring that into my career life, especially with experience curating, is understanding people. People like to be catered to. Events, people like to be catered to. I used to work at Chick-fil-A as well. My pleasure was a Bible for us because people felt catered to. You saying you're welcome is different from you saying my pleasure. Yeah. I give you this sweet tea. Somebody says my pleasure. It was your pleasure to give me sweet tea? And we had to sit there and smile and be like, well, yes.
my pleasure.
My pleasure.
You had to put on that facade.
You know, you have to put on that facade, but then when you recognize that, you're able to bring that to real life, is that people like to be catered to. Yeah. Now, we're not in the 1960s, 70s, 80s, where everything was just general. We all know about marketing and stuff like that. Algorithms is specific to that person. So I kind of took that military experience and made it into an algorithm for events. People want to be catered to. So that's why I always work the room, speak, thank you for coming. What's your name? I don't think I met you before. You know, da, da, da. Or who invited you? What do you drink? You know, and now people are able to say, like, I met Travis.
Yeah.
Like, we talked.
Had a conversation.
Yeah, now my husband might be like, you know him, we start talking. They be like, I'm a social butterfly as well. Yeah. So I like to talk. Like
okay. I want to go back just a little bit, just to talk about the emotional side of isolation. And one of the big points you brought up is the fact that, like, one, you had to learn, because you were an only child, you necessarily didn't come into encounter this before, but you had to learn empathy, right? You didn't say that word, but you had to understand how people take certain things and how you treat people, which is different than sympathy. How did that feel inside the first time you got 4 people, we all got assigned to washing these clothes? I'm about to wash the clothes, this is my job, but like, how did that feel to you to know that, like, have someone come to you and say, like, hey, I don't know what to do, and your first response is, what the hell? I've been washing clothes since I'm 6. Like, how are you able to leave the space of what the hell, or why you don't know how to wash clothes, to, okay, wow, he really doesn't know how. Let me, like, what did that feel like, and how are you able to leave that space to get to the point where you are, to have the empathy for people?
Once I had the what the hell, it was like you said, I genuinely was like, you do not know. Like, I think, like, maybe you joke and you kind of being funny. Oh, you just don't, for real, you just don't know. So it's kind of like, if you're teaching a kid something, 1 + 1, you mad at the child for not knowing 1 + 1? Like, you mad at them? They don't know.
Johnny had 5 apples.
Johnny had 5 apples, y'all. You took away 4, how many? The kid looking at you, 5. All right, I'm about to pull this belt out.
Yeah.
You know, but I was like, I cannot do this in this moment. But it was like, okay, you genuinely do not know.
And was that hard for you to leave that space of, like, let me just help him because he doesn't know?
In the stressful environment of basic training, you're kind of like, damn, do I really got time for this? But then when you assess the situation, we're in the laundry room, nobody else is in here. When instructors walk through, you have to kind of, like, you know, act right. But, okay, let me really teach you a life skill that you're going to need, because he was also active duty. So you're going to leave your family. So if you know how to wash your clothes, if you're on a deployed side, if you're overseas, you're on a base and whatever, you have to know this skill, or they're going to call you stink. You know, and the Air Force will kick you out for that on the low. You cannot be stink. So it's like, okay, let me teach you this skill. And once I taught it, I felt good and liberated by it. Not because, like, oh, I taught somebody, so I put somebody on game. It's kind of like, okay, I helped somebody. You know, like, I always tell people, pressing the button when you want to donate $1 to St. Jude or something, you know, at certain places, you kind of feel like I did something good today. And then when we left basic training, I think he messaged me on Facebook, like, you know, thank you a lot for that, because I really needed that, because I never had that. So I think that's what, anytime I get out of the what the hell moments, all my friends know I'm going to hit you with the what the hell first, kind of like, what? And it's like, oh, you don't really know.
Because exposure equals expansion. Like when you don't know what you don't know. So the more you're exposed to different things, and to some of us, like laundry is like, you should have been exposed to this.
Yes.
I don't know why you haven't been exposed to it. But like some people just don't know. So you have to expose them to different things so you'll be able to understand and know different lights. So now that was that a moment in your life that kind of helped you choose the career path? So like, when did you go to the Air Force? Like, was it straight out of high school?
Oh, straight out of high
college?
school. I graduated from the fantastic Olympic high school located on the south side of Charlotte in 2014.
Okay.
Yeah, 2014. Okay. I feel like I'm old. But 2014, and then pretty much maybe a month or two after, I raised my right hand. So by the time I went to college, I was already kind of in. We had, like, of course, I was a guardsman at a base that's in Charlotte 145th. And before we went to base training, had like a little transition stuff for a couple months. I raised my right hand immediately. I was super excited, and they also gave me a $20,000 bonus. So
of course,
why am I going to say no? The money was talking then. But it was a why not moment. I was raised with the why not. Why not do this? Why not do that? Why not? You know, if it's something that's positive for you, why not?
Yeah, why not do
You know, shoot your shot. You never know what could happen. I feel like I've lived my life of shooting the shots, and I've been making a good bit of them. But that's how my parents kind of raised me. Be like, just try it out. I mean, you're going to go to basic training. You're going to be fine. But seeing those people in that process, people who were very nervous. First 2 to 3 weeks, we had one guy, he cried every single night. And you could audibly hear him like at night. Now, of course, they're like, oh, hey, bro, it's okay. I think I had to have that auntie moment like, boy, shut up. We all here. It is okay. You're not going to die. I promise you, we have great insurance while we're here. You're not going to die. Calm down. But then he came to me after, like, I really appreciate that conversation that we had because it built me something.
So throughout all these things where, you know, you're helping someone, like you're comforting someone throughout, you know, his dark moments, you're helping someone with something that they don't know, you're exposing people to other things. Is this what led to becoming the experienced curator you are? Is this, or did you already know that this is what I'm here to do? Because a lot of people, and me myself included, like have struggled with trying to find my purpose in life and struggled trying to find the walk that I need to walk on. And you went through an isolation where you had these moments where it taught you, hey, maybe this is what I'm here to do. Is that what you learned through this experience, or did you kind of know what you wanted to do or the path you want to do leaving the Air Force?
I wanted to originally be a meteorologist.
Okay, yeah, study.
I wanted to talk about weather.
They never write anyway. So
yeah.
How much study?
Right.
Did you really
I'm like
do?
a meteorologist, and there's like a radio show personality.
Okay,
but it came a long ways. I had to wait till literally probably after college, after undergrad, went to our master's program, graduated from my master's. I knew it was something with people. Not a psychologist, not a therapist. I was like, what can I do with people? And a friend of mine came and he was like, you're really good at planning stuff. Like, you're really, really good at that. Like, I've had cookouts at the house, bring friends over, we drink and, have our fun. And somebody say, you ever thought about doing events? Yeah. And I'm like, no, I don't like events like that anyways. But then it came to understand that I was like, maybe this is my calling for real.
Yeah.
Like my first full event was we did, husband and I, we call it the Sip and See, where we went to a local vineyard, Douglas Vineyards in Charlotte, and we did a financial literacy class, a wine tasting, and also had seafood.
Okay.
Everybody fell in love with the concept. They were like, oh, this is phenomenal. Who came up with it? And I'm like, I did. On a quite drunk, my husband was driving. I was in the car just blabbering my mouth. My mom was on the phone like, you might be a little bit tipsy. I said, I am. What if we did an event like this? And she was like, oh, that's cool. Remind me in the morning. Because I'm not going to remember. But that's when I realized that I have a calling for people to bring experiences to people, especially black and brown, that we're so used to certain things that when we are exposed to something else, it opens up our minds.
Yeah.
So what we want in life, don't get me wrong, I love a good kickback.
And what the world has to offer.
Yes, you can see what the world has to offer for you. It comes to vendors, venues, going to museums. You're able to see stuff that you may have not been able to go to when you were younger, even older. You're like, okay, I'm in this space. I'm able to enjoy this space. I might like this. So that's why we try to work with so many different venues now. They're like, let's just try some with this person, be social, you're on the list. Wink, wink. But let's try these different things, see what resonates most with people.
Yeah.
And invite those people that are different demographics, different backgrounds. Because then when you get the people that come after you, like, I really enjoyed myself.
Yeah.
And I never thought I would ever I would never be exposed to something like this on this level. I'm like,
thank you.
thank
You're
you.
welcome.
You know, you make my life mission a thing. And also, like I said, supporting local nonprofits. That it's always fun to party, drink, but then also support something.
Yeah.
You know, it's cute when you know the money going to somebody's pocket at the club. You know, you buy your bottle from the section, you know, it goes to the person, blah, 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 blah. But then when you buy the bottle, but then it goes to a nonprofit, you're like, well,
Yeah. You can see the impact way
I might
more.
want another bottle to support this local nonprofit with kids. Why not? You know, and that's what liberates me, makes me super happy.
Definitely. So you talking about how like you grew up and you were raised and throughout the Air Force and everything, like you live a why not mentality.
Yes.
And you use that mentality to always shoot your shots. And you said something earlier, you was like, and I make a lot of them. What about the ones you miss? How does that affect you because you're so confident? And many people, like you can look at Michael Jordan, you can look at Kobe, you can look at anybody who's like great at what they do, right? They're confident. They're never going to be afraid to do something. But what happens when that confidence you had or what you expected to happen doesn't happen?
And
what happens to you?
To be honest, I built that. Post-grad, applying for jobs, anybody know post-grad life, you get denied from everything. Y'all, I got denied to be a cart handler from Target. I can't bring in carts. You know, when you hear in the interviews you're overqualified, I've been told so many no's that I feel like I was accustomed to. I don't mind being told a no.
Yeah.
But also, I understood the fact of sometimes a no means you dodged a bullet that wasn't for you. Nothing was there for you to learn. It was nothing there for you to teach. It was nothing there for you.
Yeah.
So I feel like the no's that I have received, it built me to be, okay, something wasn't there for me.
And what gave you that? Like, was it faith? Was it just the confidence your parents did? Like, how were you able to?
Faith. Something wasn't there for me.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't a learning lesson there for me. Like, I've worked in corporate America. I worked in the nonprofit sector. And those yeses were good, but I've had more learning experience to where I kind of like, damn, why did I get that yes of all yeses? But I was able to learn so much from those yeses that when the no's came, I'm like, well, that must have been a bad no. And I'm okay with that. Even with projects, somebody might tell me a no for their, hey, you're out of our budget, or we don't want to work with you because of, I don't know, I'm a great person to work with. But I'm okay with being like, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. That's what all I can say. But then I'm a barb, a reasonable barb for Nikki. In her documentary, she was like, just know when you come back, I'm going to triple charge you. Yeah. Because you said no that first time. But now the price has gone up. Yeah. And I'm okay with the price going up.
Yeah.
And you're going to be okay with the price going up.
Because now I'm saying yes or no to you.
Yeah, now I'm saying yes or no because now you really want me like, hey, just let me know your number. We have a big budget. We want to work with you. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, the last number was X. Now it's Y.
Yeah.
What's your answer? I'm like, yeah, of course. Great. Because you should have known from the beginning. But I took those notes, able to develop myself, understand that maybe what I need to do further is if it is getting extra certifications or extra knowledge on certain topics, I was able to be okay with that and take the no's. And I'll tell anybody, any advice to anybody, take the no's. Sometimes the no's are great yeses that open up doors for you because I've gotten many no's that a yes came that next day and that yes is what I wanted more than that no.
Yeah, and you just didn't know it at the time.
I didn't know it at the time.
Definitely. So the catchphrase of the podcast is putting the toolbox in the life of others. And the reason I use that phrase specifically is because mental health oftentimes has a stigma of empathy or feeling sorry or I'm sorry this happened and a lot of times I've experienced that people don't necessarily have answers or solutions and I'm not up here and you aren't up here to give anybody in this room the answer to their problems, the answer to their isolation. But I use the words tools in the toolbox for a reason because I see mental health as a project. This isn't something that happens one time. You went through one isolation through the Air Force, and then you may have gotten one through the next life. And each time is a new project. And I use putting tools in the toolbox because what you've been up here doing today and what we're about to dive deeper into is what are some of the tools you were able to use to help work on yourself, work throughout these isolations and these projects. So Yeah. So throughout these isolations in your life, what are some actionable things, whether it be faith, whether it be community, like whatever it is to you that helped you throughout these moments in the Air Force where you were down, where you didn't know yourself? What were some actionable steps that you actually had to take to be able to get throughout these isolations?
I'd say one is definitely faith. I definitely keep my faith close to me. But two, faith to me aligns with self-confidence. You're going to be told no. You're not going to always be right. When you internalize in yourself that everything is not going to be the way I want it to be, I was definitely that kid that my parents would always say it. If it does not go the way that Travis wants it, he is going to be pissed, like immediately. I had to come out of that. Like, Travis, this is not. You can't control this scenario, right? Being even in undergrad, there's certain things I could not control. Being a master's program, could not control my career, my life as a whole. I cannot control certain things. It's in somebody else's hands, and that is okay. So I say understand that control what you can and be happy with what you can control. If it is your happiness, if it is your mental health, if it is seeking a therapist, or if it is something that is medication, seek it, and that is okay.
Yeah.
Get what you need, because you're able to go to these jobs that you might hate. Might be around a group of friends that you're kind of like, I don't feel like I'm being fed into like I thought I was going to be fed into. But you're able to sit there and be like, I'm confident in myself enough that I don't need any of this. And I also say my parents. They definitely raised me to be only child, but they raised me solo dolo. You was born alone, you're going to die alone. You're going to go through all your experiences alone. My parents definitely say, basic training, you're doing that alone. Going to college, you're alone. You going to grad school, you're going to be alone. Me getting married, you are marrying him. We're not.
Yeah.
So day in and day out, you're going to be alone. Isolation is going to happen. Isolation happens essentially every single day when you wake up, because you're kind of like, well, what's on my to-do list? What do I have to do today? You woke up and say, okay, I have a live show today. You could have stayed asleep. You could have went out, got drunk with your friends, homeboys. You could have done anything. You could have been doing yoga, your favorite thing to do in the world. You could be doing so many other things, but you said, I have a priority list, and this is what I'm sticking to for my day. That's what you have to do. And also, like I said, another tool is your to-do list. I use my whiteboard so much. I have the ugliest handwriting. I would never let y'all see it. But I write everything down. It's the smallest things. I'll put drink water, smile, compliment somebody as you go out today. Because you'll build that self-confidence to where nobody can tell you no nothing. Yeah. Somebody might cut you off in line when you at Target. You be like, why am I in a rush? I'm not in a rush. So you doing that doesn't mean anything to me, right? Some people might be having a really bad day. We've all had really bad days. Okay, person in the drive-thru line had a bad day. Person at McDonald's had a bad day. They want to say something crazy to you. Okay, you're having a bad day. Cool. I'm going to turn up my X music person where I'm listening to. I'm going to go about my day. When you walk in a place of happiness and a genuine spirit, you will welcome so much genuine stuff that you be like, damn, my day done went from good to better. Yeah. You go to sleep like, I'm happy as hell.
I don't even want this day to end.
I don't want this day to end. I'm about to watch some television, watch Golden Girls, Wheel of Fortune like the old folk do, and and just call it a day. Yeah. So I think that's what I took out in my life, even through all my experiences, is that I was able to wake up and smile. Yeah. Another day was given to me.
Give yourself the happiness that
give myself the happiness, because nobody is going to give you happiness. Now, unless it's a check, then that's a little bit different. But the first and the 15th, we always happy.
And even then, like, you created that happiness because you put that priority, you put that disdain on that money that you're getting. So still, you were able to make that happen for yourself.
Correct. Walking that happiness and walking your self-confidence, because when you walk in that, people always say the sky is limit, but I don't believe in the sky. It's kind of like, I'll say the universe or the sea is so unlimited that you don't know what can happen. I'm definitely living that. When I was a kid, I was like, okay, I'll probably be a typical kid that might work a corporate job, and that's just going to be it for me. Nothing more, nothing less. But then in the back of my mind, I was like, you're going to be you're going to be something special, right? And that's when I think my faith played in. My grandfather always says, like, we was at a flea market. He heard a woman say, this one is going to be very special. That's what he just heard that. He turned around and there was nobody there but me standing there like, keep walking while you stop. Yeah. And he heard that. So then I kept that close to my heart. I feel like that was the Lord sending him a message of, this one's going to be special now. He's going to have some weird stuff going on, but he'll make it work.
Definitely, man. I really appreciate you. So towards the to wrap up the show, I always give the space, especially when people are some type of entrepreneur or have something for themselves, to promote anything you have, whether it's an up and coming event, anything you have that you want to promote, your social media, so people can follow your story. Like, this is that space for you to do so.
So my Instagram _THET_. Also follow business page at The Mimosa Way.